When Neil Armstrong took his first steps on the moon, the world watched in awe. But behind the scenes, a brilliant Egyptian scientist played a key role in making sure those steps were even possible. You may not know him, but without him, the Apollo astronauts could have crashed or landed in the wrong place. His name? Farouk El-Baz, a scientist whose calculations made landing on the moon possible. Nicknamed the King and Master of the Moon by astronauts, this man defied the odds, rising from a small Egyptian town to shape one of the greatest achievements in human history. Yet he wasn't even an astronomer. So how did a geologist from a small Egyptian town end up training NASA's astronauts and selecting the moon's landing sites? This is the incredible story of the scientist who mapped the moon and connected it to Earth's greatest deserts. Stay until the end, because his discoveries might change how we explore Mars. His full name is Farouk Mohammed Saeed El-Baz. Born on January 2, 1938, in the Nile Delta town of Zagasig, Sharqiya. His family valued education. His father, Sheikh Mohammed El-Baz, was a religious scholar who once taught the famous Sheikh Mohammed Metwali El-Sharawi. His brother Osama El-Baz later became an advisor to Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. He earned a bachelor's degree in chemistry and geology from Ain Shams University in 1958, then worked as a geology assistant at Asyut University until 1960. But he wanted more. With a scholarship, he traveled to the United States, visiting most of America's mines before earning his PhD at MIT in 1964. At just 26 years old. However, life in the U.S. wasn't easy. To support himself, El-Baz took a job painting houses while completing his doctoral research. His career took him to Germany, where he taught geology at Heidelberg University in 1965. Then he returned to Egypt, bringing back 4 tons of rock samples at his own expense, hoping to create the country's first economic geology center. But his ambitions hit a wall. Instead of funding his research, Egypt's Ministry of Education assigned him to teach chemistry at a secondary school. Frustrated, he appealed his case to President Gamal Abdel Nasser, who ordered a review of his situation, but in the end, he was left waiting. El-Baz saw this as bureaucratic maneuvering. While waiting for a resolution, he got an opportunity to work with the Pan American Oil Company in oil exploration in Suez, contributing to the discovery of the first offshore oil field. He then made a bold decision. He left Egypt to the USA without a job, without security, just determination. He then started looking for a job. He sent out 120 applications, searching for any opportunity. One day, while flipping through a magazine, El-Baz's wife, Patricia, spotted a NASA job posting. They were looking for geologists to help select moon landing sites for the Apollo program. When she showed it to him, he asked her to apply on his behalf. "Do you know anything about the moon?" she asked. He replied, "Nothing, but I will learn." El-Baz was interviewed and joined NASA's Apollo program from 1967 to 1972 as a supervisor for lunar studies planning at Bell Laboratories in Washington, D.C. However, his boss doubted his suitability for the job, saying that he would likely leave within a year because he knew nothing about the moon, had never worked at an observatory, was not fluent in English, was not a graduate of an American university, and had only worked in mining. El-Baz approached the challenge by asking a fundamental question: where exactly should the spacecraft land? The answer was that it must land on a flat, rock-free area, or else the spacecraft could tip over. The surface's slope should not exceed 13 degrees. However, the real challenge was the lack of topographic maps or even samples from the moon's surface. All available information consisted of geological theories predicting that a lunar landing would fail. El-Baz decided to prove them wrong, so he turned to the only resource available: thousands of satellite images. He spent 3 months studying every available lunar image, carefully analyzing 2,600 photos. His calculations were precise. He identified 16 potential landing sites, carefully selecting the one that would become the first step for humanity beyond Earth. But he didn't stop there. El-Baz personally trained the Apollo astronauts, teaching them how to recognize and collect lunar rock samples. The Apollo landings depended on him. If he miscalculated, the spacecraft could tip over, trapping astronauts forever in space. On the day of the mission, the team was anxious. The world watched as Apollo 11 took off. The anxiety in the control room was unbearable. Everything from selecting the landing site to measuring masses and adjusting for delays was based on theoretical studies using images. But reality was uncertain. Without a topographic map, the team estimated surface balance through light and shades in images. In the end, these were just El-Baz's hypotheses. If they were wrong, the spacecraft would overturn and the crew would be lost in space. Would they actually land? Would they sink into the surface as some scientists predicted? Due to the immense fear of mission failure, the team encouraged prayers and blessings from various religions and traditions. El-Baz wrote Surat al-Fatiha on a piece of paper and gave it to the astronauts for good luck. Then, the moment of truth. As the spacecraft descended, there was no room for error. If El-Baz's calculations were wrong, the mission could end in disaster. Tension peaked as Neil Armstrong piloted the craft. The descent was nerve-wracking. Then,
stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
The room erupted in cheers. El-Baz had done it. As the world celebrated, El-Baz quietly watched from mission control. He never imagined that years later, an asteroid would be named after him. In 2019, marking the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, the International Astronomical Union honored key figures who helped NASA achieve this milestone by naming asteroids after them. Despite not being an astronomer, El-Baz had an asteroid named after him, making him the first non-astronomer to receive this honor. After Apollo, El-Baz turned his attention to Earth. He realized that studying the moon had given him a new perspective. The Sahara Desert looked strikingly similar to lunar landscapes. Using space imaging techniques, he discovered hidden underground water beneath the Sahara, helping countries like Egypt and Sudan. His research even influenced NASA's search for water on Mars, a crucial step for future space colonization. He even became an advisor to Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. But one of his most fascinating legacies, El-Baz personally wrote to the official in charge of naming locations on Mars, requesting that a site be named Cairo, as the Egyptian capital was originally named after the planet Mars. His request was reviewed, and after research, a valley on Mars was officially named Cairo Valley. Today, Cairo Valley is officially mapped on the Red Planet. From a small town in Egypt to the vastness of space, Farouk El-Baz proved that knowledge has no boundaries. He wasn't just a scientist. He was a pioneer, a dreamer, and the king of the moon. Did you know about Farouk El-Baz before this video? What do you think about his contributions to space and science? Let's discuss in the comments. If you love discovering hidden stories of this world, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video.